The Augustan age in England was characterized by a series of phenomena such as the rise of the middle class, the rise of the novel as a literary genre, the rise of journalism. Let us look at why this age was nicknamed as Augustan. The term is used with reference to the age of the Roman Emperor Augustus, characterized by political stability, social and economic prosperity, and flowering of the arts. It is the age of enlightenment, the age of reason, characterized by a common faith in reason as the key to the understanding of man and the world that surrounds him, and common sense. There was a common sense of optimism and confidence in progress and human perfectibility. The Enlightenment movement was very critical, reforming, and even revolutionary. Locke, Bentham in England, Rousseau, Montesquieu, and Voltaire in France, and Jefferson in America contributed to an evolving critique of the authoritarian state and to sketching the outline of a higher and better form of social organization based on democracy and on the natural rights of human beings. These ideas found expression as reforms in England and as revolutions in France and America. From a political point of view, England's constitutional monarchy was a model to imitate in the struggle of the European Enlightenment against the absolutism of monarchy, aristocracy, and clergy. The Augustan age is the age of the rise of the middle classes. Middle-class people strongly influenced social life as they underwent a rapid economic growth and colonial expansion. Middle-class people were attached to Puritan morality, which stated the importance of hard work and individualism. From now on, any misfortune, including poverty, could be overcome through faith in God and personal effort, that is, hard working. Poverty started to be seen as a sin. So, it is the rise of the Puritan ideal of the independent, self-made man. Society changed into a materialistic and pragmatic one. There was the promotion of individualism, private initiative, enterprise, and enrichment. The state had only to protect legal rights, but the new state, the new liberal state, did not and could not interfere in private property. Middle-class people became the most important and richest social state in England, but they felt they were not educated enough. That's why, for them, new elements, new devices such as encyclopedias and magazines became crucial. The Augustan age is the age of journalism. Middle classes showed an interest towards literature, art, and political life. They strongly desired to be informed of current events, current politics. So the first magazines and newspapers were published. Edison and Steele were the first editors. Edison published The Spectator, while Steele published The Tatler. Both magazines tried to instruct, amuse, and edify with their intelligent and cultivated prose the new middle classes. So this can be considered as the first form of infotainment, that is, information through entertainment. These first magazines and newspapers were imitated outside England, especially in Italy. You can consider Il Caffè by Alessandro and Pietro Verri. A brand new phenomenon of this age was the birth of the so-called coffee houses, nicknamed penny universities. They were frequented by the middle and also upper classes, fashionable and artistic people. They were associated with news, politics, but gossip as well as a form of entertainment. The first coffee house in London was opened in 1652. People who attended coffee houses used to share news and ideas. For just 1 penny, which was the cost of a cup of coffee, customers could visit the coffee house, read the newspapers, socialize, share ideas while they were drinking their cup of coffee. As regards literature, middle-class people, that is, the Augustans, were now interested in real life, social behavior, and morals. So they were not interested anymore in plays, in theater, in drama. A new literary genre, that is, the novel, rose. In any Augustan novel, we can find the influence of the middle classes' ideals, that is, the myth of the self-made man, faith in God, individualism, materialism, practical attitude to life, faith in progress, and the so-called Protestant ethic. The first novels which were published were definitely meant for a middle-class audience. Actually, the novelist, that is, the writer, was the spokesman of the middle classes and their values. Novels were all written in a simple, colloquial, and matter-of-fact style. The aim of a novel was the so-called suspension of disbelief, the impression that what the reader was reading was true, an impression of fidelity to human experience, the reproduction of the real world in a seemingly objective way. It doesn't come as a surprise that novels originated from magazines, newspapers, and journalism in general. The first novelist had actually been a journalist, that is, Daniel Defoe, the author of Robinson Crusoe and Moll Flanders. Let us give reasons for the rise of the novel in the 18th century. First, the influence of books which had been written in the previous century, such as Don Quixote, Pantagruel, and Gargantua. Then we have the influence of Methodism, Puritanism, Calvinism, and Protestantism. Then we must not forget that journalism, magazines, and newspaper and their growing spreading were really important. Even the reading public had expanded. In fact, unlike the previous ages characterized by nobleman, we now have to consider middle-class people and their hunger to be educated and to understand more and more about politics around them and the world. Then the philosophical influence of empiricism and rationalism with philosophers such as John Locke and René Descartes. What is a novel? A novel is written in prose and it is fictitious. That is, it comes from the author's imagination. Although it is written as fictitious prose, it gives the illusion of presenting a picture of real life. There had already been examples of fictitious narrative prose in the 17th and even in the 16th centuries. Rabelais had written Pantagruel and Gargantua, but we cannot consider these two works as novels because in these books there are too many fantastic events, and we already know that a novel has to create a suspension of disbelief. The reader has to stop thinking that what he is reading is fiction, and she has to think, to imagine that everything he's reading is the truth, is reality. Miguel de Cervantes wrote the famous Don Quixote, but this is not a novel as well, because there's too much of a mixture of fantasy and reality. In order to understand the Middle Age novel in the 18th and 19th centuries, it is crucial to have a close look at this essay by Max Weber, The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism. The spirit of capitalism is the need, the calling, we may say the vocation, in German Beruf, to make more and more money as an end in itself. There's a need to work hard for its own sake as a sign of salvation. This is a new psychological disposition. As Protestant people believed in predestination, and they knew that they didn't deserve to be saved, but only God knew who were the ones who were gonna be saved. The only way of getting rid of that anxiety was working hard, trying to make the world better and better, and go and see if they would become rich. Now this is crucial because making money for the first time gets to have some sort of religious meaning, religious importance. The richer you become, the more likely you are to be saved. The Protestant ethic is the spirit of capitalism. In fact, for the first time, the idea of sacrificing themselves and saving money for the future becomes something religious. The Protestant ethic is based on Calvinism. There are some tenets of Calvinism. First of all, the doctrine of predestination, the idea that one's salvation is already decided, preordained by God. Nobody deserves to be saved. And there's no way we can interpret God's will. So the only thing we can do is to convince ourselves that we are already chosen. Calvinists used to work hard and sacrifice for the future because God will more likely select and choose the most industrious ones. Calvinism is associated to this idea of beruf, vocation, calling, a calling to work really, really hard. Labor, work, is a vocation, and our work has to be dedicated to the glorification of God and His creation. Success in this world is a sign of salvation in the next world. So if we are successful here, it is very likely that we are gonna be saved. So let us sum up how the Protestant ethic leads to capitalism. We have this idea of predestination. We do not gain, we do not deserve salvation. So we live in a constant state of uncertainty, of anxiety. The first thing we have to do is to deny pleasure and to set to work really, really hard. This leads to the Protestant ethic. We have to work hard, accumulate money and wealth as a sign of salvation. Over time, a new spirit, the spirit of capitalism, rose. That is, money and wealth have to be accumulated for their own sake.